Hey humans, and welcome to Read to Me, Matt Dunn. I'm Matt Dunn, and I'm going to read to you. We are reading Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I am on Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Good number. Very good number. Nothing is more painful to the human mind than after the feelings have been worked up by a quick sensation of events, the dead calmness of inaction and certainty which follows and deprives the soul both of hope and fear. Justine died. She rested, and I was alive. The blood flowed freely in my veins, but a weight of despair and remorse pressed on my heart, which nothing could remove. Sleep fled from my eyes. I wandered like an evil spirit, for I committed deeds of mischief beyond description horrible, and more, much more, I persuaded myself, was yet behind. Yet my heart overflowed with kindness and the love of virtue. I had begun life with benevolent intentions and thirsted for the moment when I should put them in practice and make myself useful to my fellow beings. Now all was blasted. Instead of that serenity of fucking conscience, which allowed me to look back upon the past with self-satisfaction, and from thence to gather promise of new hopes. I was seized by remorse and the sense of guilt, which hurried me away to a hell of intense tortures, such as no language can describe. Yes, such like no language. This state of mind preyed upon my health, which had entirely recovered from the first shock it had sustained. I shunned the face of man. All sound of joy and complacency was torture to me. Solitude was my only consolation. Deep, dark, death-like solitude. My father observed with pain the alteration perceptible in my disposition and habits, and endeavored to reason with me on the folly of giving way to immoderate grief. "Do you think, Victor," said he, "that I do not suffer also? No one could love a child more than I loved your brother." Tears came to his eyes as he spoke. "But it is not a duty to the survivors that we should refrain from augmenting their unhappiness by an appearance of immoderate grief? Question mark? It is also a duty owed to yourself, for excessive sorrow prevents improvement or enjoyment, or even the discharge of daily usefulness, without which no man is fit for society." Let me read that again so that we can clearly understand what he's saying. It is also a duty owed to yourself, for excessive sorrow prevents improvement and enjoyment, or even the discharge of daily usefulness, without which no man is fit for society. So if you're a depressive loner, you aren't just fit for society, you meant to be alone forever. You douche. This advice, although good, was totally inapplicable into my case. I should have been the first to hide my grief and console my friends if remorse had not mingled its bitterness with my other sensations. Now I could only answer my father with a look of despair and endeavor to hide myself from his view, because he's ashamed. I just avoid that shit altogether. About this time we retired to our house in Bellerive, This change was particularly agreeable to me. The shutting of the gates regularly at 10 o'clock and the impossibility of remaining on the lake after that hour had rendered our resistance within the walls of Geneva very irksome to me. I was now free. Often after the rest of the family had retired for the night, I took the boat and passed many hours upon the water. And sometimes, after rowing into the middle of the lake, I left the boat to pursue its own. I left the boat to pursue its own course, and gave way to my own miserable reflections. I was often tempted, when all was at peace around me, and I the only unquiet thing that wandered restless in a scene so beautiful and heavenly, if I except some bat, or the frogs, whose harsh and interrupted croaking were heard only when I approached the shore. Often, I say, I was tempted to plunge into the lake, that the waters might close over me and my calamities forever. But I was restrained when I thought of the heroic and suffering Elizabeth, whom I tenderly loved, whose existence was bound up in mine. I thought also of my father, surviving brother. Should I, by my base desertion, leave them exposed and unprotected to the malice of the fiend whom I let loose among them? At these moments I wept bitterly. I wished that peace would revisit my mind, only that I might afford some consolation and happiness. But that could not be. Remorse extinguished every hope. I had been the author of unalterable evils, and I lived in daily fear lest the monster whom I had created should perpetuate some new wickedness. I had an obscure feeling that all was not over, and that he would still commit some signal crime, which by its enormity should almost efface the recollection of the past. There was also scope for fear, as long as anything I loved remained behind. My abhorrence of this fiend cannot be conceived when I thought of him. I gnashed my teeth, my eyes became inflamed. I ardently wished to extinguish that life which I had so thoughtlessly bestowed. When I reflected on his crimes and malice, my hatred and revenge burst all bounds of moderation. I would have made a pilgrimage to the highest peak of the Andes. Could I, when there, have precipitated him to their base? I wished to see him again, that I might wreak the utmost extent of anger in his head and avenge the deaths of William and Justine. Yeah, he does a lot of that there crying and talking and hooping and hollering. Well, you should feel bad. That's what you get when you play with dead people. Well, anyway, if you want me to keep reading, please check out some more videos. Like, subscribe, and comment down below.